Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Monday. I'm really pleased to be joined today by Isabelle Obert, who's a nutritionist at our clinic, Zita West Clinic, who's going to be joining me live. So great, I can see that people can see that I'm on. So I've got Isabelle today, which is great. We've got so many questions to get through. And hold on. Vivian Hall. So she's going to be answering all your questions on IVF. I'm just waiting now for Isabelle to come on any minute now, I hope. Here she is.
How
Hi,
are you?
Isabelle. I'm fine. How are you
Thank you.
doing? You look a bit like a blonde bombshell. You've sort of changed all your hair.
I went to the hairdresser. I think she forgot about me.
It looks great. It looks really, really good. How are you doing? Are you
yes,
busy?
I am actually. Yeah, things are going fine. Thank you. How are you? You all right?
I'm fine. Yeah, busy as usual,
Good.
but all good. So we have got so many questions to get through. So if people can ask us questions as we're going along, that's great. This will be recorded so you can watch it on the channel. So Isabelle, anything you would like to say before we start?
Well, I know obviously we're talking about preparing for IVF today. And I obviously saw a lot of the questions about is it important to prepare for IVF with nutrition and stuff. The answer is, I think, absolutely, 100%. I think you can do a lot without overdoing it. I think there is a lot that people can do. So yes, I think it's really, yeah.
I mean, certainly at the clinic, everything is, the whole holistic approach is important, but I know you do, and I really believe that nutrition lays down the foundations for healthy eggs and healthy sperm. No matter what people say, I think it's a really crucial part of what we're doing. Yeah. Okay, so Isabelle, my first question, this came through on Instagram, and please keep asking your questions. Is it worth giving up meat and dairy? I have been advised to do this, so I have cut back, but not totally given up over the last few months in preparation for IVF.
The short answer is not necessarily. I think if you have an intolerance to dairy, and if it causes inflammation in the body, so if you know that if you have a lot of dairy you get very mucousy or you get gassy or something like that, and it's potentially causing inflammation in the body, then it would be better to reduce it or avoid it. Otherwise, some dairy is fine. We've evolved to be able to adapt to eat dairy, and actually studies seem to show that actually some full fat dairy, mind you, only full fat, could actually be beneficial for fertility. And again, on the meat front, protein is really, really important, but you do want to limit animal protein, so you don't want to go overboard on the meat front. But do you have to cut it out completely? No, I wouldn't say you did.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I have concerns of, and I know that we see a lot of women now who are vegetarian, nothing wrong with being vegetarian or vegan, but you have to work, especially if you're vegan, you have to work harder, don't you, to get some of the protein in. And one of the things that concerns me is that, like, the lack of milk, the lack of iodine, and iodine is really important for the developing baby's thyroid.
Well, it's really iodine. Yeah, absolutely. Iodine is really important for egg quality as well, actually. After the thyroid, the breast and the ovaries have the highest amount of iodine, and it's pretty hard to get from a vegan diet, as is B12, of course, which is important for folate absorption, as well as being really important as a nutrient itself. And as is omega-3, of course.
So what should, somebody's just asked how much protein, this is like the favorite question, and how much protein for those that are eating meat, etc. But for those that are vegan or vegetarian, I know it's the same amount, but where are good sources to get it from?
So this is for an IVF cycle, I'm assuming we're talking about. Yeah. So
yes,
protein, again, it's not an exact science. There isn't an exact amount. We tend to recommend between 70 and 100 grams of protein a day for a woman going through an IVF cycle. Depending on obviously follicle count and egg reserve. For a vegan, of course, pulses, nuts and seeds, things like you can do protein powders such as, but I would avoid the pea or the soya protein powders, and I would try and aim for the sort of hemp or rice protein powders. Some tofu is fine, so some soya products are absolutely fine, even a small amount of corn and things like that. But some of those products are very, very manufactured, very processed. One needs to be a little bit careful with that.
Okay, but again, I know what you obviously advocate as well. Women's their blood sugars aren't always
No,
balanced, are
blood
they?
sugar.
And so having protein, protein and omega-3, etc., with fats with
Protein and
every diet
fats
is
every
important.
time you eat. Very important for blood sugar control, and blood sugar control is completely important for overall hormone cycle, hormone function or hormonal balance, including the thyroid and the adrenals and everything else. So it's not just about sort of eggs.
Yeah, I know some women worry because we see. I know that this is common now, but we seem to see so many women with thyroid issues that aren't very often picked up until they're trying for a baby,
Yeah.
or it's one of the tests we do before they go through IVF. And what's difficult here is that there are certain supplements you shouldn't be taking, and also if you're eating too much iodine, that can be dangerous as well, can't it? Because
Hard to eat
can
too
be
much
bad.
iodine, but you can certainly supplement with too much. And the problem is, and I saw somebody
Yeah,
reasonably recently who was decided that, you know, oh, I must take some iodine, but I wouldn't just take any old thing without consulting somebody. That is for sure. I think you need to be balanced. And you're right, Lisa, you know, I
yeah,
think some of this thyroid thing is also linked to stress, and which is where, of course, the acupuncture, the hypnotherapy, the counseling becomes so
yeah.
important, as well as balancing that, you know, as well as nutrition, of course.
Yeah. Is there sort of like one supplement you think is very good for the thyroid apart from
Well,
iodine?
zinc is important, selenium is important. I think probably a good overall multivitamin, actually. But from a food point of view, balancing your blood sugar levels is your first port of call. It's the most important thing you do, and people forget to do that. And that, you know, that is where you said before, having protein every time you eat, particularly at breakfast, how you break your
Yeah, yeah.
fast sort of sets the tone of how your body works over the day.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well because, you know, women, as I often say, are ruled by their moods, their foods, and their hormones. So they're going to be craving sugar at
Absolutely.
certain times of the month, which is difficult as
Sugar is
well.
not
So,
to
but
sugar is certainly not the
sorry.
thing to fall back on.
No, I know, but that's when you crave the cake or whatever. Right, the next question: is it okay to drink alcohol responsibly? I don't know what responsibly means while trying to conceive.
Probably not while you're driving, I suspect. But yeah, I would say so. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any evidence that a small amount can be harmful or detrimental. There is evidence that alcohol can delay conception. So yes, some alcohol. I think
Yeah,
if you're an all or nothing person, it's going to be hard. If you're not, actually, probably you might find a benefit from having a glass or two of red wine a week, because it's rich in antioxidants. It can
yeah.
relax you. So the answer to a quick answer is yes, it's fine, but depends what you mean by responsibly. You're right.
But it's interesting, isn't it? But when you say if you're an all or nothing person, because I often find that as well. Some people, they
Yeah,
have to cut it out completely, and others
yeah.
can survive on a couple of glasses a week. But I do think that when you're preparing for IVF, especially in the lead up to
Oh,
IVF,
completely.
you should cut it out.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
once you
completely.
start on your journey, if you like, on your actual
Yeah,
cycle, you cut it out completely. This is more, I guess, for people trying to conceive. Yes, but start.
yeah. But I also think, Isabel, that alcohol, and I
So
love a
I,
glass of wine, it does deplete you
it
of
does.
nutrients that you do need, B vitamins, if you're
Absolutely.
drinking a
No. It
lot.
does deplete you. So yeah, magnesium, B vitamins, certain things that are really, really important. And of course, it affects your
Yeah,
liver function, which is also really important for the rest of your hormones, etc. So I mean, it has a completely knock-on effect. Um,
yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because we have on our questionnaire how many units you're having, and I think some people don't realize how much they're drinking when a bottle of wine is 10
so,
units, you know, so you can very often get to 20 or 30
oh,
units
without
without even
trying.
realizing.
Yeah, it's scary actually,
Yeah,
which is another good reason to sort of take a step back and look at what you're doing, I think.
yeah. You're a
Oh, am
bit
I?
pixely, Isabel.
Sorry.
I don't know whether, I hope people can hear. I don't know, it must be
Yeah.
the
Oh,
internet
I'm
connection.
I can see
Can
you
you?
perfectly and hear you perfectly.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I hope everybody else can sort of hear us. Okay, is it worth? Oh, somebody's just asked here. Should we cut out wheat out of
Uh,
our diet? Oh, thank you, Dean, for telling
Thank
us you
you.
can hear fine.
I think, again, wheat can be linked with, or gluten, if you like, can be linked with inflammation. So if there are thyroid problems, looking at wheat consumption is something that we do. If you've got endometriosis, there are various things. You don't have to be celiac to have a gluten sensitivity. So again, do you have to cut it out? No. If you know that you bloat quite a lot when you're eating a bowl of pasta or a piece of bread, it could be an indication that wheat isn't great for you. What my view is, if you're going for an IVF cycle, try without going mad and you know, completely driving yourself insane with stress, try as much as you can, because you've got nothing to lose in a lot of ways. But cutting out huge, great, you know, chunks of your diet just like that is not ideal. You know, you want to make sure that you're having other sort of whole grains and stuff like that.
Yeah, because that's what, you know, that's what's very difficult as well, because when women are going through IVF or trying for a baby, they look for this one magic food, which is usually a pineapple or something like that, you know, because they read it, the beetroot, all of that. And I understand, I absolutely understand why. But I think that making changes to diet, you really do need guidance. It's a big thing to give somebody a list and then expect them to go out and make these changes. You know, it's small tweaks, isn't it? You've got to sort of do it gradually, because if you cut everything out, it's
unsustainable. It can be detrimental, because you might be cutting out really important nutrient pools, if you like. And you know, if people had to cut everything out, then there'll be no kids in the world, because people don't. So it doesn't work like that at all, and you do have to be careful. And the problem is that you read so much. There's so much controversial stuff as well that contradicts itself, if you like. So
yeah. It's interesting. Another question here: should we be eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and 2 healthy snacks?
Not necessarily. One has to be careful with the snacking, because if you're eating, no,
I'm not a great fan of snacks in between meals, because it just causes
that's
spike in insulin.
It depends on your snacks. I mean, if you're having breakfast at 4 o'clock in the morning and dinner at 9 o'clock at night, then you probably do need some snacks, because you've got such gaps. But on the whole, you want to leave time for your body to sort of, for your liver to work and for your digestive system to work. So you have to be careful with the snacks. And, you know, ideally I would recommend breakfast, but actually, you know, there is intermittent fasting and stuff that can be helpful. So not for an IVF cycle, though, I have to say. I think when you are actually in the lead up for an IVF cycle, because your protein requirements particularly are higher, but other nutrient requirements are higher, because it's not all about the protein for the egg, then I do need to try and eat more balanced. And also you want to go into an IVF cycle as if you were going into a pregnancy, and in pregnancy you don't want to be fasting or anything like that. So
yeah, but it's interesting with IVF as well, because it's not a natural situation, isn't it? You know, when you ovulate naturally each month, when you're trying naturally, you ovulate 1 egg. But when you're going through IVF, you want to get the best eggs that you can, and that's why things like gut health are really important as well, because so many of the clients we see have got irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, diarrhea, and you make the hormones from the food you eat. So if your gut isn't working well, you're not absorbing well either,
and of course, if you've got constipated, then your toxin, your system is more toxic, because you're not actually excreting toxins or old hormones, so it can affect the way your hormones work. So the gut is really, really important. Yeah, absolutely crucial.
We've had a few questions here. Sorry, I'm throwing all these at you, but there's so many I want to get through about blood flow. Any foods to help with blood flow?
The old beetroot thing that you discussed a bit earlier on. Beetroot is known, it contains nitrates, which are vasodilators, which mean that they dilate blood vessels to improve blood flow. So beetroot juice, not everybody loves it, I'll be honest with you. Pomegranate juice. Again, I'm talking juices here. I'm fully aware that they're very high in sugar. One has to be careful. Small amounts. Always around protein containing foods, because protein slows down the absorption of sugars, it stops the spikes. Watermelon contains something called L-citrulline, which is very good for blood flow. Nettle tea can help as well. Be careful with drinking too much teas after embryo transfer.
Yeah, somebody's asked that question. Nettle tea sounds absolutely disgusting to me. I know that you like it, but you can have, I don't think I could face nettle tea.
Blood flow, water, drinking enough water, of course, because if you're not drinking enough liquid, your blood can't flow properly. And in fact, I did see one of the questions was it important for a man to hydrate for his sperm? The answer is yes, it is, because the sperm's got to swim in something. It can reduce the quality and the volume if they don't drink enough. And the same with egg quality. If you don't drink enough, it can affect the quality of your eggs, because we are made of nearly 50% water, and that includes the eggs.
Yeah, there's a question here about exercise. Exercise is important. It helps with beta endorphin release, etc. But I don't know about you, but when you're preparing for IVF or going through IVF, I don't think you should be doing heavy aerobic exercise. Not when you're trying to sort of grow
No.
eggs, so to speak. And if you exercise too much, it takes the blood flow away from
And
the whole of the pelvic
exactly
area.
that. You don't want the blood flow to be away, but also it increases cortisol levels, and it increases inflammation, sort of high intensity exercise. So yes, you're right. Once you've started your cycle, you want to move, but you don't want to go overboard, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Are chamomile tea and green tea okay to drink during IVF?
Yes, in moderation. Chamomile tea actually is fine after embryo transfer. Again, really be careful. Too much may not be a good thing. Green tea, don't forget, does have caffeine in it. And it's got more caffeine than you think it has, so limit it. It also contains a compound called EGCG that may inhibit folate absorption, so not too much green tea.
Would you have to be drinking a lot of it
again,
for that to happen?
You know, how long is a piece of string as to how it affects somebody.
Yeah.
But the reason I say that is some people go, oh, it's fine, I'll have decaf and I'll have 10 cups a day. I wouldn't do that.
Yes,
I think moderation, really.
Yeah, that's hard for a lot of people to do, isn't it? But I mean, I think when you've got a goal in mind, it makes it easier. Another question here. What's the biggest mistake you see women making with their diet?
Trying to be perfect, I think, is a big mistake, because and I've seen it happen over and over again, particularly with IVF. And I saw somebody again recently whose sort of first IVF didn't work, and then she's come back for baby number 2, but then the second one, it did work, and she said, I was so less perfect in the second one because I was a bit disappointed, and I think it takes a lot of stress out. So that's one thing. I think trying to be too perfect, it's the low fat is a real, I think is a big problem. A lot of people think that low fat is really important, and
do they still think that? Has that message not got across?
The message hasn't got across. Low fat in other foods, because people do understand that they tend to be full of chemicals and all that kind of thing, but mostly on the whole, people are not aware that or certainly a lot of the people I see that actually really full fat dairy is so important if you're going to go the dairy route.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well, Isabelle, isn't it? Because like normal butter, not margarine, full fat cream, proper yogurt, not fat free. It's all of those things I think are important. Is nutrition part of the IVF cycle at Zita West Clinic, or is it an extra service? No, it's part of our IVF cycle. We really, really do believe in it. So everybody that comes to the clinic will have nutrition as part of the service, but anybody watching this can access Isabelle even if you're not coming to the clinic. You don't have to be coming to the clinic to be able to have a nutritional consultation, do you? Okay. Is it worth cutting out dairy and gluten for PCOS, or just eat a low GI diet?
Balancing your blood sugar levels much more important. Again, on the gluten, I don't think there is any good evidence to show. Again, if it's the same bloating thing. If you think that it might be causing you inflammation or discomfort, then watch that. With the dairy, again, the low-fat dairy is much more likely to give you sugar spikes, and low-fat dairy is linked with higher androgens, which are the male hormones, which is a factor in PCOS. So low-fat dairy again is a no-no. Some full-fat dairy would be all right, but it's the moderation thing. It's not 15 milkshakes a day,
Yeah, but also things like inositol, myo-inositol is very good for PCOS, and exercise as well. So that's worth sort of taking into
it's not only good
account.
for PCOS, it's good for egg quality, it's good for sperm quality. I'm recommending it a lot for men.
I know, and it's good for getting a mature egg, and that's what you want with PCOS. It's not just lots of eggs, you want mature eggs. No, I think I take it myself because I think it's good for so many processes in the body. I need all my processes working.
Mine are failing.
Okay, there's another question that's come up here and on here. What do you need to eat before frozen embryo transfer? So, of course, when you have a frozen embryo transfer, the eggs are already made. So, are there any recommendations for blood flow? Again, is it beetroot? Is it
down? So pro-inflammatory foods. Well, if you are intolerant to something, it will become pro-inflammatory. So dairy, as an example, doesn't necessarily mean, and it isn't necessarily pro-inflammatory unless you can't tolerate it, and then it becomes pro-inflammatory. Too much red meat might be pro-inflammatory. Sugar is definitely pro-inflammatory. Artificial sweeteners, pro-inflammatory.
Yeah, I'm surprised that people still use them.
Yeah,
yeah,
they're
not great,
all
are
sorts
they?
of issues, both male and female fertility wise.
But you're better off to have a little
bit of honey, which is still, I mean, look, a little of what you fancy, you know.
I can't have tea without honey. I have to have.
Sensible, you know. People go, I can't have any sugar at all. Well, you know, a little bit is fine. You know, enjoy food. For goodness sake, you've got to enjoy. It's a hard enough process to go through with being miserable at the same time. But, you know, in an ideal world, I think your grandmother should be able to recognize what you're eating, you know, and certainly artificial sweeteners were not around 50 years ago, or they probably were actually 70 years ago. I don't, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Right, egg quality. How do you improve the quality of your eggs through diet? We get a lot of this, don't we? And you know, certainly for me, I know a woman's born with all the eggs she's ever going to possess because she's told that all of the time. And some doctors will say it doesn't make any difference to your egg quality. But I honestly believe that the environment the eggs are growing in, they go through a cycle, and different components of the egg or any cell need different nutrients, don't they?
The egg, and you know, antioxidants are this is where antioxidants come in. So antioxidants are extremely important for improving egg quality. I mean, a lot more study really is done on sperm quality, if you like, but eggs and sperm are just reproductive cells, so the same will affect the female, and the studies are done with mice. One has to assume that, you know, female mice and female humans also will respond in the same way. So antioxidants, which tend to be found in brightly coloured fruit and veg, so that's really, really important. The protein, of course, because protein provides the building blocks for growth, so that is why your protein requirements are higher for an IVF cycle. And so
omega-3, the cell membrane.
So yeah, so omega-3, vitamin D, very, very important.
Yeah, and you know, people forget as well about the follicular fluid, which nourishes the egg, and that's rich in vitamin D. It's rich in inositol. But I think there's so many studies now coming out about mitochondria, and the egg cell has got the largest mitochondria in the body, and so to have the energy to
this is where CoQ10 comes in, of course, and so.
Yes, I love CoQ10.
Yeah,
I take that as well.
I'm about to get some more. I think I need it. But yeah, so CoQ10 is wonderful as an anti-aging antioxidant. But the second reason that it's thought to help women in IVF is, of course, is that, as you said, that the egg is the largest cell, if you like, in a female body. So on a normal month, you're ovulating with one egg. That needs a certain amount of energy. For IVF, you're ovulating with what? 10, 15, 20. Your energy production requirements are much, much higher. So by increasing your energy production potential, it is thought to help increase the efficacy, if you like, for improving egg quality in an IVF cycle. So yeah, I'm a big fan. And you know, you can obviously take it as a supplement, but also it's through food. It's in every little.
Somebody said you shouldn't take CoQ10 after embryo transfer. I don't see why not.
The studies, there is a potential question that it might help improve implantation, but high doses haven't been studied in early pregnancy, and so we tend to err on the side of caution and say, if you're taking CoQ10 for egg quality, then, you know, because normally we're talking, you know, reasonably high doses, then it is probably safe to stop it for embryo transfer.
Yeah, but again, you know, there is CoQ10 in products, and it's good for mitochondria. So, but I agree. Like at the clinic, we do give higher doses to women that are going through
it's really
IVF.
important, if you are taking supplements and stuff, to seek advice. Don't just go buy stuff of yourself.
Yeah. Because when women come in with 30 supplements in a bag and they sort of produce them all, it's too much, isn't it? So are there any foods to decrease the risk of miscarriage?
Well, again, it's increasing nutrient-rich foods. It's balancing your blood sugar levels. It's avoiding foods that you might be intolerant to. If you are gluten intolerant, there may be a link with gluten sensitivity and miscarriage, as an example. So we're looking at, again, sweeteners. So I think it's eating a nutrient-rich diet. There isn't a magic pill. There isn't a magic food.
And what I think what's hard if you have had a miscarriage, women will blame themselves on that cup of coffee they had, or a glass of wine, or,
I mean, it could,
or whatever. So it's just trying to help with the eggs, isn't it?
but
As
also
best you can.
it's not always that, you know, it's nobody's fault ever, but sometimes it is male factor that can be linked with miscarriage. And so it is so important for the men to look after themselves, cut their caffeine down, cut their alcohol down, and, you know, take something which has got folate in it. You know, all of these things may be.
And folate is better than folic acid because it's better absorbed into the body. Somebody's just asking here, I've heard drinking grapefruit juice can improve your cervical mucus. Would you agree? I haven't heard of that.
And I would be a little bit careful, particularly if you're going through an IVF cycle, you're obviously on medication, and sometimes grapefruit juice is not recommended when because it can affect the way your liver metabolizes stuff. So cervical mucus, well, sort of omega-6 actually can help cervical mucus, but you need to take that in the first half of the cycle, and omega-3 is important as well.
In terms of fruit, because there's a few questions that have come up over high sugar fruit. So what fruits are good?
I mean, everything is good in moderation. Obviously, the tropical fruits are grown under a hot sun, and therefore they are higher in sugar. So papaya, mango, bananas, that kind of thing, those are tropical fruits. Fruits that are grown in this country obviously don't need that much sun, frankly, so they're not so high in sugar. So berries, which are also very rich in antioxidants, apples, pears, things like that. I mean, again, you know, nothing is completely off the table, but be careful. A lot of people make the mistake of thinking, oh, I've been advised, you know, I know we have to have 5 a day, I'm having all my fruit. Not all, you know, I wouldn't. That's too much sugar and too much all at once. You know, smoothies are often a problem as well, because people put everything in one sort of, and they drink it. And I think if you deconstruct it and you put it on the plate, you think, can I eat all this in one sitting? If you can't, then don't drink it. So it gets
but I think, I mean, like this time of year as well, with the root vegetables we've got, you know, carrots and squash and all those orange vegetables that are fantastic, rich in beta carotene, aren't they? So beta carotene is amazing for the ovaries,
and exactly for the corpus luteum, for egg quality. Absolutely, this is a great time for that.
How can you improve AMH levels with nutrition? Can it help? And this, I've got another question here as well. Can you improve AMH with nutrition? My AMH is 8.4 in February. I'm age 34. So she's still young, even though it's on the low side. At 34, it's young. But I don't know what you think, but it's difficult, isn't it? Because it might change, but it won't go up hugely.
And the thing is that we can't, you know, I'm like you, I've seen it, you know, we see it go down. I've seen it go up as well. But you know, you can't, there's nothing as far as I know that can help it. There does seem to be evidence that lower levels of vitamin D may be linked with lower AMH levels. So vitamin D is so important, and so many of us are low in vitamin D, which is a big thing for our clinic, Zita.
We test them at both, don't we? We see all the time, because you give out the results how low very people are.
Very few, particularly at this time of year. If you're overweight.
But trying something like acupuncture, because that's quite good for blood flow. So, you know, that is good. And even I was reading somewhere that inositol, not for AMH, but it can be a messenger for FSH as well. So, you know, it's worth taking. It's about egg quality and inositol, isn't it?
Originally, it was sort of recommended for women with PCOS because of the fact that it helps regulate the cycles. But as you say, because it's known to help with egg maturation, then you know, it's great for egg quality, and as I say, sperm quality as well. I mean, we used to recommend it just for PCOS. Now it's sort of just, you know, for the older women, definitely. I mean, without recommend it.
Okay, how can diet reduce my raised cytokines? So first we have to explain what cytokines are, because we see a lot of women with immune issues, don't we?
They are immune markers. They're immune sort of modulated. Well, they're not modulated. They're immune markers. Essentially, it is raised cytokines would indicate that your immune system is overactive. So there is a thinking that it may affect implantation or, you know, sustaining a pregnancy, because your body sees this as something to fight off. So from a nutrition point of view, if you think, so if you walk into a wall and you bang your head on the wall, you get a big lump on your head. So inflammation is the body's first line of defense. So when your immune system is overactive, it's potentially in a pro-inflammatory state. It's in a pro-active state, it's in a pro-inflammatory state. So from a nutrition point of view, we look at reducing inflammation. So taking away foods that might be affecting the system, that we've discussed a little bit earlier on, pro-inflammatory foods like a high sugar diet, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the microbiome that you were talking about a bit earlier on about the gut. So improving your microbiome is extremely important because the gut is the largest immune organ. The gut health, by optimizing gut health, and also omega-3 can also help reduce inflammation. So,
yeah. And vitamin D is a workhorse of the immune system. So omega-3, vitamin D, anti-inflammatory diet, all of these things can help, can't they?
You know.
Yeah, yeah. How to raise your AMH with diet? Yeah. Well, I think we've covered that. What diet changes can a man make to improve sperm DNA fragmentation? That's interesting.
And actually, inositol, by the way, improves sperm DNA fragmentation. But
yeah, somebody's just asked, can men take inositol? I haven't given it to men, but there's no reason why they can't.
I recommend it all the time to men, and you know. No, absolutely. So reducing caffeine is a big one, absolute big one. Obviously, the alcohol is an obvious one. Reducing processed foods and processed meats, particularly red meat, high red meat intake. Increasing antioxidants are the most important thing to improve sperm DNA fragmentation. The antioxidants become important. Watercress, an example, has been found to reverse DNA damage in sperm. Really, so certain foods. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. And also coenzyme Q10, lycopene, all of those sort of orange,
the red
fruits.
Veg. Absolutely. Rainbow color.
Tomatoes. Yeah, tomatoes. Cooked
Absolutely.
tomatoes. Well, you get. I sometimes when I pass your door, I sort of like I'm listening into you to see if I can get in to see you, and I can hear you sometimes telling men to sort of put some tomato paste, some. Is it tomato paste?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and some of the studies are done with tomato puree. And 2 tablespoons a day would be a starting point. Most people go, what? Why would I do that?
I don't even know what it tastes like on its own. There's a question that's come up here, and we're near the end. Hi both, I've heard that seed cycling is worth trying. Having pumpkin seeds in the follicular phase, sunflower in the luteal. What are your thoughts? I don't know the answer to that
either. I think it can become extraordinarily complicated. For me, that's sounding overcomplicating matters, and because then you're so sort of in a sort of, oh, I've got to do this on Monday and this next week. I'm not sure that that's the way to do it, but there's no reason not to try it, as long as you're doing the other things as well and don't fixate on one thing.
Yeah, I'm assuming as well that pumpkin and sunflower seeds have got different oils in them at different times of the month. That's what I'm associating this with, but I don't know.
It's not something that I tend to discuss.
Okay, do men need to change their diet for IVF? This is a difficult one, isn't it? Because a lot of women feel that they're just making all the changes and their men aren't. And I think sometimes men don't make a change unless there's any issue with the sperm.
And that is not necessarily, don't ever sit on your laurels if you've had a good semen analysis, because it does not tell you what the quality is. So that is the thing I would highly say. A good semen analysis doesn't tell you if it's good quality sperm. So, you know.
It gives you all the parameters and everything like that, but it doesn't mean to say you can carry on drinking and smoking. Somebody had asked a question earlier about smoking in men, only 3 a day. I think if you can, you've got to give up completely.
If you can.
It's it's really key.
If you are investing either financially, emotionally and physically in an IVF cycle, without being so stressed and miserable, it is worth doing as much as you possibly can, because you want to feel that you've given it your best shot. And at the moment, we don't know. I'm sure in a few years' time or several years' time, the couples will be able to walk through a scanner, which will be, oh, this is why it's not working for you. We can't do that now. So, and different people, we're all biochemically unique. The different couples have different issues. You can't always understand what they are. So the more that they can do. So yes, anything they can do would be better than not doing it. And
this is a good one to finish on, because I think it's you like talking about what you can take, you know,
Yeah.
taking certain supplements with medication. So, I mean, at our clinic, women are on thyroxine, they're on progesterone, they're on all sorts of injections, and they're on aspirin. So this lady's asking, can I take omega-3 if I'm on aspirin? The vital DHA, quite rightly, says on the packet not to take with aspirin, but
and
you
the
can.
reason we have to put that on is what you can't control is what people do with it. They could go and buy it online or in a shop and decide to take 15 a day, and if they're on blood thinner, that would be too much. But taking it at the dose that is recommended, i.e.
We just ordered that.
Okay, am I back again?
Yeah, you know, you're back again.
So taking it at the dose that is recommended is okay to take with blood thinners. And actually, a quick thing on that: if you are taking thyroxine, don't take a supplement with got calcium or iron in. It's got to be away at least 2 to 4 hours away from the thyroxine. So a multivitamin should always be taken later on in the day.
Yeah, okay, that's very interesting. Somebody asked here about folic acid, but folate is better. And what's she saying here? Oh, I've lost it now. It's yeah, she's been taking. We just ordered your vitamins. Can't see it now. Oh, and our third cycle starts in November. Is that long enough to get any benefits? We've been taking folic acid.
I mean, look, we tend to recommend in an ideal world that you have up to a 3-month, you know, preparation cycle. But if it starts in November and egg collection is in December, that's giving you pretty much 2 months. I mean, you know, you can definitely make some very significant benefits in that amount of time.
Yeah. It's difficult, isn't it, for me, because I don't like talking about my supplements on here. It's not the forum to, but it's important that you sort of build up all your levels of nutrients.
Taking supplements for an IVF cycle is recommended because your nutritional requirements are raised. You know, it's an exaggeration, isn't it? Because you say not a natural process, so as many nutrients as you could get is probably worth considering.
Yeah, but I think it's good to finish on that women beat themselves up too much, don't they? They absolutely do, and I think they need to be a bit kinder to themselves. And if you can do 80% right, then you're
the 80-20
fine,
rule is essential. You know, it's got to have a bit of chocolate if you like it. Have, you know, try and make it good quality, and at the end of the day, you know, you've got to. I think people aren't kind enough to themselves.
And if you fall off a bit, you just need to press your restart button.
Yeah, and a lot of it, that is a question I get asked a lot. If they fall off, have they ruined everything? No, absolutely not. You haven't. Don't worry.
Yeah. Oh, Isabelle, that's gone so quickly, and we've gone over our time. But that was so informative. Thank you so much. Will you come back on again? I felt like I was racing everything because there were so many questions.
Anytime, Zita, and hopefully one day I'll see you in the flesh.
Yes, I haven't seen. How long is it since I've seen you? Since March, yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much, Isabelle. Got lots of hearts, so lots of people really enjoyed this.
Good luck, everybody.
Thank you so much for your time and your energy. Oh, and if anybody wants to make an appointment with Isabelle, got my sales pitch now. It's 0808 196 4060, and she'll see you by Skype. And Isabelle,
thank you so much, Zita. It's really kind, and good luck, everybody. So I'll speak to you soon.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, take care, Isabelle. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody. So don't forget, on Wednesday, I've got Dr. Vivian Hall. So she's going to be answering all your questions and answers on IVF. Okay, bye, everybody.